Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Beat Podcast, recorded live here at Vive in Los Angeles. Today, I have the privilege of hosting Rajeev Ronanki on the podcast. He's the Chief Executive Officer at Lyric AI. He's got over 25 years experience in innovation-driven work in the healthcare industry and also social change in the industry. And really, as his vision is to invigorate Lyric's technology and utilize AI, blockchain, and machine learning while building best-in-market strategic partnerships to make healthcare better. Before joining Lyric, Raj led the transformation at Elevance, formerly Anthem, from a traditional insurance company to a digital platform as the president of Carolyn. So, Raj, such a pleasure to have you here again and be with you.
Saul, good to see you in person, and thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to chat with you. How's the meeting going for you? You enjoying it?
Enjoying it. Yeah, it's a lot of steps. My Apple Watch and phone have been tracking all that, so very happy with the step counts. But beyond the health outcomes, meeting a lot of good partners, good solutions, and it was a pleasure to host our clients here and just have a meaningful, in-depth couple of days with them.
That's great. Yeah, it's always great to get together live. And before we dive into the questions, Raj, give us your high level on Lyric AI, what you guys do and why you do it.
Yeah, Lyric AI, our purpose, Saul, is to simplify the business of care. And every consumer in the country that's undergone any health procedure would say that even if the health outcomes were great, all of the insurance processes and the confusing paperwork that ensues from that visit is anything but simple. And so we want to go after that problem and simplify that entire ecosystem of why care gets delivered the way it is and the implications of that to consumers and help them understand what happened in that care setting. And then codify those transactions accurately so that health insurance companies, health plans can pay those claims accurately and ultimately improve the access and affordability of care through paying for things that need to get paid, and then cleaning up all the noise that exists in the system, and ultimately get at this cliched $1 trillion of waste that we keep talking about that we haven't made much progress on. So that's what we want to get after and solve.
Love it. Big problem with some big solutions that you guys are after. So definitely excited. Digital transformation. It's reshaping healthcare delivery in 2024. How do you see that happening? And what are the main challenges and opportunities this presents?
Yeah, so healthcare, I think, in general, lags other industries in the adoption of digital technologies. And primarily, so not that you would consider the internet digital technology per se, given that it's been around for a while, but It's the foundation of the modern economy. And then most other industries have taken advantage of the components of web-based technologies to really modernize their infrastructures. Healthcare, I think, has largely ignored it and bypassed it. What next? So similar to all the countries that bypassed the landlines and jumped straight to mobile and perhaps leapfrogged in using that strategy. I think healthcare probably is in the same position, which is with AI, with Gen AI, with advancement in blockchain. I think healthcare can leapfrog the internet foundation and move to an AI-based foundation for constructing its future. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen automatically. I think there's a lot of work ahead to actually reshape the thinking of key leaders in healthcare for that to come to life. And I see that as a collaboration between the established big players that have such a dominant position in our healthcare ecosystem. Players like Epic or Cerner that are on the provider side, on the EMR back office end, and all the payers that are the natural aggregation points for convening care delivery and making care available and accessible to all their consumers. So if you think of those big players as the platforms, the conveners of supply and demand, if you will, then there's, this conference being an example, hundreds of millions of innovations that are happening with new technology, new capabilities, and new solutions that are super interesting, but they lack a distribution mechanism to get to scale. So I think a collaboration where the platform players like the big health plans and the EMRs and the health systems of the world, if they think of themselves in that mold, i.e. don't chase after the next point solution or the next prior auth AI or the next underwriting AI, whatever it is that the solutions that are interesting and innovative out there, but systematically think about how do you engage consumers digitally through apps, portals, and search and other digital means of engagement, and then connecting in providers through equally digitally enabled solutions. So connect EMRs into administrative systems, connect clinical workflows to administrative workflows, and focus on relentlessly improving the connectivity and the access to both providers and consumers so that healthcare can ultimately be thought of as a supply and demand problem. And that in connecting supply and demand digitally, you can have a lot of instrumentation into what happened, what could happen next, how do you anticipate that, and how do you fulfill that demand. That's where I think companies like Lyric could be a good partner to the platform players by providing the payment intelligence, the predictive sort of cost of care models to understand care journeys, care pathways, given the patterns of data and the volume of data that we see. And then together, the ecosystem plus the platform can ultimately transform healthcare. The digital transformation sort of term is used to describe that in short. It's mistaken to think of just point solutions and applications as being the primary sort of means to that end. To me, I think what's missing is this platform level thinking across the healthcare system to really impact a transformative change.
Yeah, well, a big opportunity to tackle. And taking a look at it from that broad perspective is, I think, the need that we have today. It's not the point solutions that are going to get us to eliminate that 1 trillion that you mentioned.
Absolutely. Imagine if instead of shopping on Amazon, you had to shop at 50 different retail sites, right? Could you do the same thing? Yeah. Is it efficient? Absolutely not.
No.
Are the prices going to be as cheap as you would get on a mass aggregated platform? Absolutely not. So, healthcare is no different. It's just that there's all these point-to-point connections that exist, and where eventually whatever needs to get done does get done. It's very costly. It's very inefficient, low quality, and it's very reactive.
Yeah, said. Can you share some of the most exciting technological innovations you believe will significantly improve patient care and outcomes?
I think the biggest thing is our ability to predict. Yeah, I think I was reading the other day a stat that healthcare data doubles every 73 to 80 days. So that already on top of the hundreds of petabytes of data that already exists in healthcare. So that doubling effect of data, I think, if left untapped, would be a great disservice. So to me, tapping into that data and understanding really all the care pathways and all the ways in which we can predict what might happen next in a person's healthcare journey, I think it would be the most significant transformative thing that happens in the next few years. But that's alone is not enough, right? To predict something means that's great, but unless you can act on it, then it's to no end. So then combine predictive with proactive, and then proactive with interventions. So then you can start to move away from a reactive sick care system that we have today to a much more personalized, proactive, and predictive health system, which means that we can anticipate and prevent disease and ultimately expand healthy lifespans and healthy aging and all the other goals that we have as a country.
Love that. Thank you for that response. You're outspoken on the importance of ethical and responsible use of AI. We hear the use of guardrails quite a bit. Can you perhaps be more specific on what as the top 2 or 3 most important focus areas for AI specific to driving responsibility and ethical use?
Yeah, I think with any tool, I think there could be positive uses as well as unintended consequences. With a tech like AI, I think the unintended consequences could be essentially scaled with the power of the internet and AI coming together and perhaps perpetuating something that shouldn't be. So number one to me is that all AI programs need to have transparency and explainability so that you understand exactly what's in the black box, why the AI is reaching the decisions that it is, and that there's no illusion, hallucinations, what have you, that perhaps could have an unintended consequence, right? So one, that's super important. 2, I think before we embark on AI, I think the foundation of any AI initiative is going to be in the data. So examining the quality of data, the completeness of that data, the representation of population in that data, and understanding all of that is super critical before we even jump into developing algorithms and AI solutions. 3rd is just ongoing checks and balances. Once deployed, a descriptive conventional system doesn't change. Whereas an AI system is going to continue to learn and change and evolve based on new inputs, new data, new learnings. So then even if everything was done right, going up for a system going into production, 3 months in, a year in, it still could change and evolve into something different. So we need to have ongoing sort of introspection of model performance, things like model drifts, new inputs of data, and make sure that the original intent that was expressed is still carried through in the solution into production. And then finally, think of AI not as a replacement for humans necessarily, but an augmentation of human intelligence. So to me, humans should always be in the loop in the most critical decisioning processes that involve care and care delivery and denying care. And then use AI for automation of the more routine things where there are well-established patterns. So to me, if we did all those things, I think it would constitute a good way to implement AI responsibly and not have the blowback from regulators and consumers, and allow healthcare, the industry, to use AIs that it so desperately needs in order to ultimately improve this for all of our stakeholders.
I love the framework that you laid out for us there, and it's certainly promising to think about how we could use it to, as you said earlier in our interview, leapfrog, where we've been in the innovation cycle. Here at Vive, you spoke on the future of payment innovation. Could you elaborate on how AI technologies are specifically enhancing payment accuracy and efficiency in the face of evolving compliance landscapes?
Yeah, it's compliance, it's regulation, it's new innovations that happen. For instance, there's roughly 800 new genetic testing products that come into market every few weeks. So all of that, how do we decide what to pay for, what's medically necessary, what's discretionary, and all the associated complexity around that. Think of Lyric as a company that's focused on examining all of that and being a neutral arbiter of what needs to get paid, reimbursed, because there's good, sound medical rationale for it. And all the stuff that is perhaps not as medically necessary and is more discretionary and in some cases just waste. And so forking that, and for the mass majority of the providers, I think they do the right thing and they intend to do the right thing. They just sometimes are not as educated on how to codify a service, how to bill for something, and therefore errors happen. And they get corrected over time. So Lyric's purpose really is to make sure that all the good actors, all the providers that are doing the right thing, but perhaps are not as educated on how to get it right, give them the tools necessary to get it right the first time, to eliminate the back and forth between payers and providers, reduce the friction, reduce the noise. And then enable both parties, consumers, all parties, I'd say, consumers, providers, and payers, to focus on the things that perhaps are more subjective. A provider might disagree with a health plan, might disagree with a provider, a consumer is stuck in the middle. Right now, there's not a good enough collaboration platform to mediate and figure out how to get to an adequate resolution to that. The issue is, the reason it doesn't exist is because every transaction is looked at through some, let's just say, some level of suspicion. So it takes a long time to settle transactions, and there's not enough resource that could be dedicated towards just the exceptions. So I think what Lyric can do for our customers in the healthcare ecosystem is take care of all the noise, eliminate the friction, simplify the transactions, and enable all the stakeholders to provide on the things that are truly exceptions and truly subjective, where deeper research is necessary around patient history, the patient's medical condition, the effectiveness of a procedure relative to that condition, personalize the decision, and then keep everyone informed as to why and how and the transparency around that, which ultimately will help in building trust between the stakeholders, which is sorely missing in the current landscape.
Yeah, that's really great. And is it looking at all the transactions coming through, recognizing characteristics, qualities of ones that don't really necessarily need the time and attention so that people can focus on the ones that do?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So if a doc in Nebraska, a doc in California, a doc in New York, looking at similar patients are all doing the same thing, and there's good medical policy and regulations and other CMS rules that support it, there's no reason to double think that, right? And just pay it, just settle it. And then there may be others that are somewhat vary by providers, vary by region, vary by various other factors that require closer inspection and closer collaboration with providers to get it right until there's sufficient volume of pattern to do it automatically. So those are the ones that I think our healthcare practitioners, subject matter experts should be focused on versus all the other stuff that's fairly routine.
That's great. I love the idea of being able to add structure that is reliable, repeatable, and creates additional trust that helps move faster. It's very promising.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Very promising. So what steps should health plans take today to prepare the future innovation and ensure they remain at the forefront of payment accuracy and efficiency?
It's a summary of many of the things we already talked about, which is that one thing, health plans should be thinking of themselves as a digital platform. They're conveners of care and care delivery. They know they have all the data to figure out provider performance, who's doing well, who's not, who's average, and where the traffic should be directed to, and at what point and what type of care should be delivered, whether it's digital or virtual or in person. So rather than, I think, focusing on the next shiny object or the next innovative solution vendor, what have you, and attempt to churn the ocean finding solutions, it'd be better to focus on a systematic enablement of consumers accessing care and starting to access care digitally, and then providers being connected into a digital platform so that clinical and administrative workflows could be truly integrated. For example, we still can't do scheduling at scale, or we can't easily cancel and shift appointments. That requires a phone call and whatnot. Specialists, it's hard to understand what the referral patterns are and why that's happening. So all of that could be handled very differently. And so if health plans started to realize, all right, let's focus on those bookends, connect providers, connect consumers to some digital enablement mechanisms. And then that intersection of supply and demand of care and care being delivered by providers and the care being received by consumers, really then digitize all the processes that sit at the intersection of that. Prior auth, do I need the service or not? Claims, how do I get paid for the services that were rendered? Risk adjustment, how do I account for the health risk of a patient and adjust that appropriately? All the HEDIS quality measures that need to be collected, all the charts that need to be documented as a part of the process. If you think about all these kind of siloed processes, there's no reason for them to exist as silos. They can all be swim lanes that are integrated into a digital platform. Claims, prior auths, underwriting, health, risk adjustments, HEDIS quality measures, STARS measures, all that could be done within sort of the context of one transaction and kind of rethink how everything happens. What health plans typically tend to do is say, oh, I've got a problem with risk adjustment, so let me go digitize that.
Tackle that thing.
Right. I've got a problem with prior auths, let me go fix that. I've got a problem with benefits. It's one thing at a time without thinking about the larger patterns of platforms and how to think at scale. Mm-hmm. So if that mind shift change happens, and if, let's say, I was advising a health plan as to what to do, I'd say, A, focus on the platform. Think about the operating structure of the company to reflect a platform business, not a traditional bricks and mortar business from the 60s, which is what most health plans operate as. And then create a corporate venture fund that would invest in companies that could become part of that platform ecosystem. So if there's a company out there that does risk adjustment, really, a company out there that does real-time claims, or a company that does payment accuracy, Lyric, go curate that ecosystem to work on the platform. So you can plug in those solutions, and then ecosystem then grows from there and becomes a vibrant sort of platform that thrives, much like what Apple created with their App Store, or Google with their app stores. Once you create that mechanism for developers to reach consumers or providers, then many good things can happen. But a structure has to be created to facilitate that so that it can happen effectively.
That's fantastic. I love the playbook that you just laid out there. I think one that many listening can follow. Fantastic. I really appreciate the approach, the simplicity of the approach that you take. Rajeev, this has been excellent to get back together with you and have this discussion here at Vive. What closing thought would you leave our listeners with?
First of all, it's been a pleasure. It's great to see you, and good to see you in person. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'd say Lyric's purpose has been to simplify the business of care. I think purpose-driven companies, have research shows that purpose-driven companies always have a better shot at addressing something, because the entire sort of employee base of the company can rally around a singular purpose, wake up every morning and think about, what am I doing to advance this purpose? In our case, AI is a tool to essentially enable us to achieve our purpose of simplifying the business care. And in so doing, I think we can offer a service to the broader healthcare ecosystem, continue to serve our clients with distinction. And hopefully in that collaboration, we can ultimately get after this $1 trillion waste problem in the country and expand access to care and make care more sort of equitable to everyone in the country.
Well, it's a great vision, a great call to action. And Rajeev, just want to say thanks again. Appreciate having you here.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.